What do you do when the man who swore he loved you was only using you to fuel his secret empire of lies? I gave him my heart and my savings, because he promised forever. But he gave me fake love, fake promises, and a bank account drained to the bone. So I did what any single mom with a spine would do. I turned his empire upside down. He thought he could play me. But I made sure he paid, with everything. You know how they say love finds you when you're least expecting it? Yeah, they never tell you it might come dressed in fake smiles and designer suits, ready to bleed you dry. My name is Rachel. I'm a 34-year-old single mom of a 6-year-old firecracker named Lila. I work full-time at a mid-size accounting firm and juggle parenting like a circus act on a high wire. I never thought I'd fall for anyone again after what my ex-husband put me through. But then he showed up, Nick. Nick was charming. Confident. He said all the right things and never missed a beat. We met on a dating app one joined after weeks of my coworkers pushing me to get back out there. Our first date felt like a fairy tale. And the way he looked at me, it was like he saw me not just as a mom, not just as a tired woman trying to survive, but as someone wanted, desired, cherished. So, when he started talking about starting a life together, I let myself believe again. I opened up. I let him into my world. My daughter adored him. He knew that. He used that. And while I was busy imagining wedding dresses and shared dreams, Nick was imagining something else entirely. He didn't want my love. He wanted my money. And when I found out the truth, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I calculated. What you're about to hear is the story of how I turned heartbreak into strategy, and made sure that the man who faked his love ended up faking smiles through bankruptcy papers. Before Nick, my life wasn't glamorous, but it was real. Every weekday started at 6 a.m. Make breakfast, pack Lila's lunch, drop her at school, then off to the office. I wasn't just a mom, I was a survivor. My ex-husband left when Lila was 2, right after I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. He didn't want the mess. Said I was too much. But I pushed through. Therapy. Long nights. Silent tears after bedtime stories. And slowly I rebuilt myself. I hadn't dated in over 4 years. I didn't have time. And honestly, I didn't think anyone would want a woman with baggage and a kid. That's where my coworkers stepped in, specifically Priya and Jenna. They created a dating app profile for me during one of our Friday wine and wine nights. That's where Nick popped up. Stylish. The kind of smirk that said I know I'm hot but I'm not a jerk about it. His profile said he was an entrepreneur running a few emerging tech startups. Based in the city but traveled often. No kids, never married, but ready to build something real. We matched instantly. And from the first message he was attentive. He asked about Lila, never made me feel like a burden. Within 2 weeks, we were having 3-hour phone calls and texting constantly. Our first date? He took me to this intimate rooftop bar with a skyline view and remembered every detail from our chats. He brought up my favorite red wine, even ordered a small dessert plate because I'd mentioned how I loved chocolate but hated ordering it alone. Nick didn't rush anything. He let me lead. Always asked if I was comfortable. He didn't meet Lila until 2 months in. But when he did, God, he was so good with her. Patient. Playful. He even helped her with a class project and stayed up late building a solar system model with her. I watched them from the kitchen, tears prickling behind my eyes. I thought I'd finally found someone safe. Someone who could be part of our world, not just mine. He started staying over more. Cooking meals. Fixing a broken drawer in my kitchen. Leaving his cologne on the hallway hook like he belonged there. Then came the business talk. Nick would mention his projects casually. Something about a new crypto-related app. Then a consulting firm helping small businesses scale. He always had big dreams, and big expenses. But I didn't think twice. Entrepreneurs hustle. I knew that world from my clients. After about 4 months he brought up a deal he was working on. Said it was a huge breakthrough, but there was a cash flow issue holding things up. The investors were delayed, banks were slow. He didn't ask me for money, not at first. Just vented. Looked stressed. Said he was embarrassed even talking about it. I remember that night so clearly. We were watching a movie. He paused it halfway and turned to me serious. Raj, I hate even saying this. But if I don't get this payment in by Friday, the entire deal falls through. I just need to bridge it. Just a week or 2. He swore he'd pay me back with interest. Showed me emails, projections, even a pseudo contract. Looked legit. And honestly, I wanted to believe him. He'd done so much for me and Lila. I felt like I owed him. So I wired him $8,000. The next week he asked for more. $5,000 this time. Then $3,000, just to cover a surprise tax delay. Always smooth. Always charming. He made me feel like I was helping him build something for us. That we were partners. By the time I realized something was off, he'd taken nearly $23,000. My savings. My emergency fund. Lila's future. There were little red flags I brushed off. Him getting cagey with phone calls, always promising to show receipts later, saying his accounts were temporarily locked due to some legal audit. I told myself it was temporary. Until one day he was gone. Phone disconnected. Socials wiped. Apartment empty. No goodbye. No explanation. Just a shell of a man I never really knew. And a silence that echoed through the home he once pretended to belong in. I was devastated but not broken. I didn't just lose money. I lost trust. My sense of judgment. My hope that maybe I'd found someone real. And when I sat in my living room that night staring at the void he left behind, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. Logged into every account I could remember him using. Went through every email. Every message. Every story he ever told me. And what I found was worse than I imagined. Nick wasn't just lying to me. He'd done this before. Multiple women. Multiple names. A well-oiled machine of manipulation and fraud. A con artist hiding behind tailored suits and well-practiced empathy. That's when something snapped inside me. A calmness I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't going to the police, not yet. I was going to hit him where it hurt most. His money. He thought he picked the perfect target. A lonely single mom desperate for affection. But what he forgot was that I'm a damn accountant. I know numbers. I know paper trails. And I know how to crush a man financially. It's funny how hindsight sharpens your vision. The things you once called little quirks suddenly scream warning signs. The night Nick disappeared, I didn't panic. I processed. I scoured everything. His social media accounts, our messages, even the way he phrased certain things. I started mapping out his lies like a puzzle, and I had no idea how big the picture really was. Let me walk you through it. The first real clue was the wire transfer receipt. I'd kept a PDF of the first $8,000 I sent him. He had forwarded it to keep things transparent. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. But now something caught my eye. The receiving bank account name? NK Holdings Limited. Not Nick Carson. Not even an individual name. It was a shell company. A single Google search told me the business was registered overseas and, get this, shut down a year ago. I dug deeper. Ran his phone number through reverse lookup sites. Nothing. Tried his email on LinkedIn, Facebook, even niche sites. Still nothing. But when I Googled NK Holdings Limited plus fraud, I struck gold. A Reddit post from 3 years ago. A woman in Arizona. Beware of Nick C., who scams women through fake startups. My stomach dropped. Her story was almost identical to mine. And in the comments, 2 more women had chimed in. I reached out. We had a Zoom call the next night. I met Kara, an ICU nurse from Dallas, and Liana, a marketing exec from Seattle. Different cities. Different lives. Same man. Different names. Kara knew him as Nathan Clark. Liana as Nicholas K. Same photos. Same smile. Same startup hustle. My skin crawled. Over 6 years he'd conned at least 7 women we could confirm. Each time he used a different alias, a recycled business pitch, and just enough emotional bait to reel them in. One woman had even filed a police report, but nothing stuck. He used offshore accounts, fake IDs, burner phones. A ghost with a business card. And just like that, the man who played house with my daughter, who cooked me stir-fry on Thursdays and kissed my forehead when I had migraines, was a career predator. That's when the grief turned to rage. And then, to strategy. I told Kara and Liana I was going to hit back. Not with lawyers. Not with sob stories. But with financial destruction. They laughed at first. Said it was impossible. He was too slippery. But they didn't know what I knew. I had access to his spending patterns, at least while we were together. He used my Amazon account more than his own. Ordered deliveries to my apartment. Logged into my Netflix and PayPal. That meant one thing. Traces. Metadata. IP addresses. Connections that could be pulled, tracked. And I'm an accountant. Forensics is my jam. So I started building a case. First, I logged into my Amazon and pulled his order history. Sneakers, electronics, a high-end wristwatch. All shipped to a P.O. box downtown. I contacted the shipping company and, pretending to be a confused sender, asked for delivery details. They wouldn't give much, but they confirmed it was tied to a small business account. Bingo. Then I went through my browser history. Nick used my laptop constantly. I recovered deleted files. There were Google Sheets saved under temp names, one titled, Investor Funnel 2023. When I opened it, my jaw dropped. It had names, emails, phone numbers, amounts. He was running a scam investment scheme. Fake startups. Seed rounds. Promises of 15x returns. It wasn't just women. He was conning men too. New entrepreneurs looking for mentorship, shell companies investing via crypto wallets. I contacted one of the names on the list. A guy named Jordan. Said I was an associate doing fraud checks. He was hesitant but eventually opened up. He'd invested $12,000 into Nick's crypto automation firm. Never saw a return. Was ghosted. I knew what I had to do. But then came the worst part. Lila. One evening she found an old photo of Nick in her drawer. She asked, "Mommy, when is Nick coming back?" He said he'd take me to the Science Museum. I froze. My heart cracked in places I didn't know existed. I told her the truth. A version of it, at least. "Sweetie, Nick isn't coming back. He wasn't who we thought he was." She looked at me with those big brown eyes and said, "Was he pretending to love us?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded. And she, my brave little girl, hugged me and said, "Then we're better off." That's when I knew I couldn't just let this go. Nick wasn't just a scammer. He was a manipulator of hearts. And the only way to stop him was to expose him, ruin his network, and make him pay. But not just for me. For every woman he lied to. For every child he pretended to care about. And for every dollar he stole. What he didn't realize was that he left breadcrumbs. He used me to fund his con, and in doing so he got sloppy. Now I wasn't just heartbroken. I was dangerous. Nick, he was about to learn what happens when you fake love. With a woman who knows how to read a balance sheet and a lie. Secondary conflict. Just as I was preparing to bring him down, I received a cease and desist email from a law firm. Apparently Nick, or whatever name he was using now, had a friend on the inside. Someone helping him sweep things under the rug. The letter accused me of harassment and unauthorized access to confidential files. I knew it was fake. A scare tactic. But it was a good one. Still, it meant one thing: he knew I was coming. But instead of backing down, I leaned in. Because now this wasn't just personal. It was war. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I served mine calculated, collateralized, and public. I didn't want to just humiliate Nick. I wanted to erase the illusion he'd spent years crafting. And I was going to do it with the very thing he underestimated about me. Numbers. Step 1. Asset tracing. I started with every financial breadcrumb I had. See, people like Nick get lazy when they're confident. He'd logged into PayPal on my laptop. Saved card autofills. Even accessed an offshore exchange account once, and didn't log out properly. That gave me his wallet ID. Using blockchain explorers, I tracked recent transactions. Multiple deposits from unfamiliar addresses. Then, bingo. A transfer to a crypto debit card service that allowed real-world spending. Once I had that link, I filed a quiet complaint through a friend who worked in compliance for a financial fraud team. She couldn't officially help me, but she pointed me in the right direction. Said, "If you can connect his wallet to any identity, you've got him." So I bought something. From him. Through one of his shell websites I found embedded in the spreadsheet he left behind. A fake consulting platform promising investment mentorship. I made a payment using a burner card. 3 hours later the transaction popped on the blockchain, same wallet. Got it. Step 2. Build the network. Kara and Liana, 2 of the other victims, were on board instantly. But we needed more. So I created a private group online. Broken by Nick. Password protected. Invite only. I shared our stories, redacted for safety, and asked for others to come forward. Within a week 5 more women joined. A freelance designer. A former yoga instructor. Even a divorcee who almost sold her house to fund his so-called expansion. We formed a coalition. Shared everything. Cross-referenced emails, photos, recorded calls, fake business names. We made a timeline, spanning nearly 7 years for states and 2 countries. We even found his real name, Dylan Hartley. Born in Nevada. Dropped out of college. Arrested once for wire fraud but got off due to insufficient evidence. That was the turning point. We weren't just revenge-driven anymore. We were witnesses. And we had receipts. Step 3. Legal landmines. Remember that fake cease and desist letter he sent? I traced it. He'd used a free email generator and a stock law firm template. Amateur mistake. I forwarded it, along with our compiled data, to a real legal advisor who volunteered pro bono through a victims' rights foundation. She didn't promise miracles, but she told me something vital. If you can disrupt his cash flow, even temporarily, you'll force his hand. That's when it clicked. Nick, sorry Dylan, was running everything on borrowed time. He wasn't rich. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul. Using funds from one woman or client to appease the next. It was a Ponzi scheme disguised as charm. So we did what any savvy accountants, marketers, and fed-up women would do. We exposed him. Step 4. The digital takedown. We created a landing page. Simple, factual, loaded with screenshots, voice recordings, and comparison photos of him using different identities. Then we bought ad space. On dating sites. Business newsletters. Even a few shady crypto forums where we knew he scouted his prey. The headline. Beware of this man. Nick Carson / Nathan Clark / Dylan Hartley, serial fraudster and romance con artist. We weren't slandering, we were documenting. We also submitted a press release to a couple of medium-sized investigative YouTube channels and a podcast about con artists. They bit. One video got 200,000 views in a day. His face. His aliases. His MO. Plastered across the internet. Step 5. Freeze and bleed. With help from a legal contact, we submitted reports to FinCEN for suspicious financial activity, the Federal Trade Commission under online fraud, local police departments where transactions occurred, crypto exchanges he'd used. We provided wallet IDs and chargeback proof. The platforms he used for dating, Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. Within 72 hours, 3 of his payment accounts were flagged. By the end of the week, one was frozen. A woman in New York, who almost wired him $15,000, got a notification saying, transaction denied due to suspicious activity. We saved her. Just in time. Twist, he reached out. I didn't expect it. 2 weeks into the takedown, I got a message on an anonymous email I'd used for all the coordination. Subject, we need to talk. Body, you've made a mistake. You don't know what you're doing. I nearly laughed out loud. He wasn't angry. He was nervous. A man like him thrives in the shadows. Exposure isn't just uncomfortable, it's fatal to his game. He threatened to sue. Said he'd take us all down. Claimed he was the victim of a smear campaign. But we were ready. We had files. Testimonies. Financial links. Bank logs. Voice recordings. I sent a single response. Good luck suing 7 women you defrauded in 4 states. By the way, how's your crypto wallet doing? He never replied. Final blow. Bankruptcy. 2 months later, we got word from one of the podcast hosts that Dylan, Nick, filed for bankruptcy. His accounts had been suspended or under review. He'd racked up debt using fake business lines of credit. Now that we'd outed him, the shell companies he created collapsed. No one would touch his name. He owed tens of thousands, not just to us but to fake investors, credit issuers, and even a hosting service for one of his companies. One woman even filed a civil suit for fraud. And won. He didn't show up in court. He disappeared again. But this time, there was nowhere for him to hide. His face was all over fraud forums. His dating app profiles were banned. His aliases blacklisted. We didn't just hurt his ego. We crushed his financial engine. No more romance games. No more investor bait. No more women to manipulate. He wasn't bankrupt because of market failure. He was bankrupt because he loved faking love and underestimated the wrong woman. They say closure doesn't always come wrapped in a neat little box. But sometimes when you've been gaslit, used, and discarded, it comes as a PDF. Public records filing. Chapter 7 Bankruptcy. Petitioner. Dylan Hartley. Yeah. That hit different. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, Ava asleep in the next room, tea in my hand. The rain tapping against the window. My phone buzzed, it was Kara. Check your email. He finally did it. I opened the link. There it was. All the lies. All the fake business names. All the money he claimed he invested. Wiped out. His little financial empire, built on deception, was gone. The fallout begins. He tried to delete everything. Websites, socials, even scrubbed his LinkedIn. But it was too late. Our group's page was still ranking on Google. The podcast that covered our story? Over 500K views. A mid-tier news blog picked it up too, and some Reddit sleuths had already connected the dots. And then came the real cherry on top. One of the investors Dylan scammed, an older man who'd sunk $40,000 into a fake crypto fund, filed a civil lawsuit. With the publicity from our takedown, more people started stepping forward. It turned out Dylan owed nearly $300,000 to various individuals, not just romantic victims. And guess what? He couldn't pay back a cent. Every account was frozen. Every shell business had collapsed. The SEC even opened a preliminary file on him, not because he was some criminal mastermind, but because there were enough digital breadcrumbs to warrant scrutiny. The man who once bragged about beating the system couldn't afford a lawyer to defend himself. His desperation, one last attempt. 3 weeks after the bankruptcy filing, I got another message. An anonymous text. Blocked number. Just 5 words. Are you happy now, Claire? It wasn't angry. It wasn't even defensive. It sounded small. Like a balloon slowly deflating. Like a man who'd finally realized he wasn't untouchable. And for the first time I didn't feel scared. I felt done. No rage. No vindictiveness. Just peace. Because here's the thing about men like Dylan. They don't just con for money. They con for control. For dominance. For ego. And I took every piece of that from him. Public humiliation. Oh, and there was one last gift. One of the podcast hosts who interviewed me, she did a follow-up piece, tracked down Dylan's old photos, cross-referenced them with the names he used on dating apps, and posted a mini documentary. The Man Who Faked Love for Bitcoin. The Dylan Hartley Scam. Over 1.2 million views in a month. Comments flooded in. I matched with him on Bumble. Same pitch. I bought one of his crypto ebooks. It was trash. Glad I didn't invest. These women are heroes. The internet needs more takedowns like this. One user said they saw him working a shift at a gas station in Colorado under a fake name. Whether it was true or not, it didn't matter. His reputation was shredded. Not just online, but in every niche he once operated in. Crypto bros, coaching forums, spiritual investment circles, fake influencer hubs. He wasn't just bankrupt. He was radioactive. What I gained back. I didn't make money from this. I didn't want to. But I did get something far more valuable. My peace of mind. My sense of worth. My community. That group of women I met. We still talk. We formed a kind of sisterhood. Trauma-forged, yes, but real. We check in. We laugh. We heal together. I even helped one of them rebuild her freelance business. Another? She started writing a book about her experience. As for me, I finally allowed myself to date again, but on my terms. No more crypto kings. No more smooth talkers in fake designer shoes. I'm not bitter. I'm awake. I now trust myself more than I ever trusted Dylan. And that's the real victory. Final image. Sometimes I still think about the day I met him. That charming smile. The empty promises. The glittering lies. But now when I see his face in my memory, I don't feel regret. I feel power. Because he thought he could fake love and walk away rich. But he forgot one thing. I'm not just a single mom. I'm a survivor. And when he played games with my heart, I played chess with his bank accounts. You know, when I first started this journey, all I wanted was an apology. Just one moment where Dylan, Nick, whoever he wanted to be, looked me in the eye and admitted what he did. But now, I'm glad he never did. Because if he had, maybe I would have let it go. Maybe I would have given him the chance to disappear quietly, to start the cycle again with someone else. And that's the worst part about manipulators. They rely on your kindness to keep doing harm. So no, I didn't get an apology. But I got justice. And if you're watching this and thinking, wow, I think I dated someone like that, or maybe it was my fault I got fooled. Let me stop you right there. It's not your fault. People like Dylan are masters at building trust, mirroring your dreams and making themselves your savior before they become your storm. They don't target you because you're weak. They target you because you're strong. Because you love deeply. Because you believe in people. But belief needs boundaries. And love, real love, doesn't come with ultimatums, manipulation, or missing money. What I learned through this, beyond blockchain sleuthing and digital traps, is that I'm not naive. I'm resilient. I'm smart. And I'm never, ever going to apologize for being someone who trusted once. Because now I know better. If you've ever been conned, gaslit, manipulated, or just need a space to say, hey, that happened to me too, leave a comment below. You're not alone. And trust me, speaking your truth is the first step toward getting your power back. Speech Balloon, share your story. Thumbs up, like this video if you found strength in it. Bell, subscribe for more real-life revenge stories that empower and expose. Puzzle piece, and if you suspect someone's pulling the same tricks Dylan did, just say, I've got a checklist I'll gladly share. Thanks for watching, and remember, you might not be able to erase the past, but you can rewrite the ending.